joining us on this webinar. Don't be a Michael Scott, how to effectively manage your Global Youth Service Day project. As some of you know, my name is Sarah Berry and I am YSA's Grants Manager. Tonight we will be hearing from 4 experts, all of whom have experience creating and implementing their own service projects. We will hear from all of them about their best practices for remaining organized and making sure that everyone else is also organized during the entirety of your project. We will hear from Sami, who is the founder of Shift Scoliosis, Amanda, who works with City Year New Hampshire and is an AmeriCorps Vista, Cathy, a 6th grade teacher working with her students on service projects, and Sharon, who is the founder and president of We Care Act. I know that all of these presenters have valuable information to share, so please be sure to listen in and ask questions. To get started, we're going to start with Sami, who, as I mentioned, is the founder of Shift Scoliosis. She is a 17-year-old high school senior from Connecticut, and she is currently also serving as the National Child Awareness Month Youth Ambassador representing her state of Connecticut. Her greatest passion is to help others who are struggling with complex health conditions, and she also enjoys traveling, swimming, and spending time with her family, friends, and pets. So Sami, I'm going to unmute you, and you should be able to go from here.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much. I wanted to say hi to everybody. My name is Sami, and I'm really excited to be presenting tonight. My nonprofit, Shift Scoliosis, is about 2 years old, and we do a lot of different initiatives, and I'm really honored to be one of the NCAM ambassadors this year and excited for my Global Youth Service Day project this year. On the screen right now, you can see my before and after pictures. So I want to start with talking about with how I organize volunteers. So I like to start with a project plan, list the volunteer positions. Excel, I think, is a really great tool. I found that it's very helpful for myself to organize the different positions that we have open when coordinating a project. I always try to remember the address and phone number and email of everybody because I feel like otherwise it's kind of hard to get in touch, especially if you have a question. Making job descriptions has been very helpful as well. When we go to volunteer fairs and try to recruit people for our different initiatives, if you have a job description, it really helps the people see what calls out to them, what they're passionate about. And then when they're ready to do it, they kind of know what to expect and they're really motivated and prepared to do it. Keeping volunteers on task. I like to do group calls and emails because I feel like it motivates everybody. Everybody's really excited to speak with one another, and you get a lot of good brainstorming done. Using Facebook has been really helpful, surprisingly, for different business components of coordinating different events. I find that a lot of people are on Facebook already, so they're more than happy to chat on there about ideas they have and questions. Planning meetings are fun, too, because you can make it into sort of like a little party for planning your event. We like to, bring snacks and play music and things like that, and it's really a fun way to keep everybody motivated and on task at the same time. We also do a lot of motivators, like written and verbal things on the internet, and also, to our people via our email list and things like that. And team building activities are another thing. Sometimes we'll bring our volunteers to different fun activities to sort of take your mind off the work and also, build everybody's friendships with one another and make everybody motivated to continue doing a great job towards the overall goal of having an awesome project. One thing that I wanted to talk about is how to deal with being younger than some of your other volunteers. I'm 17 and started being really involved with this, the different nonprofit stuff at 15. And one of the things that I found to be a struggle was dealing with volunteers who are a lot older than me and kind of wanted to take control of the project. So a lot of times they'd, not necessarily be disrespectful, but not realize that I also had potential to be a good leader. This was, a struggle that I hadn't anticipated, but did run into frequently and still do sometimes. Some of the things that I found to be helpful with this were being respectful when delegating tasks to them. I often tried to say, I know you have, even more experience because you've been doing this for a lot of years. What are your ideas on how this can work out? And, being open to the skills that they had to offer, but also still staying, as the one that's in control of, what's going on overall, trying to be, the project manager, but also being respectful of what everybody had to say and their roles are. I also tried to find the best way to communicate with them. Some of our volunteers are, kind of, in their senior years, and they're not as interested in using Facebook. They're a lot better on the phone, or even some of them prefer when I mail them flyers and things like that. And I found that being respectful of that has been really helpful too, because it keeps everybody motivated and also on the same page. Just kind of got to be flexible with everybody and their preferences. But yeah, this was definitely something that you guys might run into as well, because you want to engage everybody and you want to make sure that everybody's motivated, because you never know what people have to offer to your service project. Rewarding volunteers. We do a lot of social media and website shout-outs, especially on Facebook. We'll post a picture of one of our volunteers doing a volunteer activity and write some of their accomplishments, and they really love this. So we've really taken to doing this frequently. Small gift recognition. Sometimes we'll give our volunteers a little thing in the mail just to surprise them, just to say thank you. They seem to really like this. Handwritten thank you notes, and also every year we do like an annual party around the holidays and invite all our volunteers to that. And it's really a fun way to kind of say thank you for your work this year, and look forward to the next year of doing volunteerism. I wanted to share a short story. One of our initiatives is called Wrapped with Love. It's a nationwide blanket project where we have 30 chapters across the U.S. and they give blankets to children in the hospital. We have a bunch of different coordinators of all ages and geographical locations, and some of them are super involved. They do multiple events a year, raise lots of money. They're just great at coordinating everything. It's wonderful. And others, their chapters are smaller and they donate less and they don't raise quite as much money, and that's okay too. So at one of our volunteer planning meetings, our board of directors was trying to find a way to motivate everybody, see if we can get some of the less motivated chapters to become, doing more events, raising more money, doing more fundraisers, things like that. And one of our volunteers had come up with the idea to give them a little surprise gift in the mail. So we took a small compact mirror, something, we got it for an inexpensive price, and we printed out a sticker to go on the front of it with a thank you from Shift Scoliosis on it. And we all got together and we stuck all these stickers on and sent them out to our volunteers and anybody else in the chapter that had been involved with making their chapter have success this past year. And we sent it with a nice handwritten thank you note to each of our volunteers and each of our coordinators, and the response was incredible. Within just a couple of days of getting it, we got contacted by several of our chapters saying that they were so happy to be involved with us and that they were planning an event, many of which are going to be held on Global Youth Service Day. And it was just incredible how fast the response was and how much they were motivated from this. It was just incredible. So, I think that really gave us perspective on when you motivate your volunteers and you give them something small. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be anything huge. It really means a lot to them because it's from you and from your organization, your service project. So I think those are some of the things that really were helpful to me. If you want to get in touch with me, here's my contact information. I love helping any way I can, getting involved with other projects as well. So definitely feel free to email me or give me a phone call or anything like that. So.
Great. Thank you so much, Sami. I really appreciate it. And I know that I've not only learned a ton from you over the past 6 months of knowing you, but hopefully people here tonight also learned a lot. So it's been so great. I've been working with Sami on her Wrapped with Love project for GYSD, and I'm really excited to see her results from that. So great job, Sami. Now I'm actually going to switch on over to Amanda, and before we switch it over, I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. So Amanda is 24 years old, and she's originally from Cumberland, Rhode Island. And 3 years ago, she began her work in the nonprofit world by volunteering her time as an AmeriCorps member for City Year in Hampshire. She spent 10 months working in a 5th grade classroom, tutoring and mentoring students in literacy, math, attendance, and behavior in a nationwide effort to decrease the dropout rate in high school students. Since her first year of national service, she has spent the last 2 years working for AmeriCorps Vista, which stands for Volunteers in Service to America, which helps nonprofits just like City Year build capacity and strengthen their ability to help the youth population. As a Vista, she helps to train the AmeriCorps members working in classrooms, plan service days for students and teachers, and engage corporate sponsors in service with City Year alumni in hopes of expanding people's knowledge of City Year's work. She clearly has a lot to share, so Amanda, I am going to pass it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Excellent. So my first screen here is just a couple of pictures. Like I said, I work for City Year, and at City Year, there are 50 core members working in 6 elementary schools that we work in, and my job is to manage the 6 teams that work in those 6 schools. And so there's anywhere from 7 to 11 people on each of those teams. And I basically manage each of those teams in creating and implementing the projects that you see here. A lot of them are beautification projects that we do for schools, putting beautiful like murals on their blacktop and just decorating their staircases and making their yards. Their play areas look really great. We also do a lot of stuff inside of the school as well. I think like that was like a little bit about me, but what I want you guys to like think about too is, you know, like I want this to be able to be something that you can do for your projects, and I know that like not all of our projects are going to be the same, and so how I originally start thinking about it and going through like the YSA grant, if you have access to that and your MOUs, like think about how many youth you're going to be engaging, and like based on those numbers, then you kind of have an idea of like how many projects you're going to come up with. So that's like where my mindset starts when I start thinking about the types of projects and things like that. So for example, if I'm going to be engaging 1,000 youth between 6 schools, that's about 160 kids per school, and that means that I have to be able to manage a team who can create projects for 160 kids. And so that's a really good way to break down the goals of your MOU, and also like your capacity building priorities. Then thinking about, you know, how many of those based on your grants that you are going to be working on, and how you're going to allow yourself to like expand on those based on like your needs. So I think something else that happened that is helpful is finding connections in your community and deciding like how they can help with that. So for example, like I said, like we work in schools, and so a huge partner is Aramark. They're a huge sponsor of schools, you know, supplying like food and the janitorial staff and so much more to the schools. And so we partner with Aramark, and they help us out by allowing us access to the school before and after hours for an extended period of time in order to you know, like prep projects and things. And so think about the people who are connected to the places that you want to help in order to gain like benefits from that. So starting, I always like to make like an overview and like a work plan of everything that I'm doing. And but like what I tried to do like on the screen was take pictures of the documents that I've like made in the past, so I can kind of give you like a visual of an example. And so like for my overview of GYSD is basically like, okay, my working timeline, this is what I'm going to be doing, these are going to be the people's roles, and I've set up down at the bottom, here are bi-weekly meetings that I want to have with my 6 different teams. That way I can make sure that they're on track, but also to give us time for them to ask me any questions they have, and for them to also use each other to brainstorm projects and just use each other for like best practices, like, oh, you made that really great schedule, let me share that with, you know, other people. So I always make sure that I like am setting up meetings for check-ins, due dates. I'm a really big calendar person. I like to put things like visually on calendars because it allows you to see how much time you have in between tasks. And I think something huge that has been like a learning point for me is being able to delegate instead of like me doing all of this planning myself. I have 50 people who are working in these schools, and they have 160 kids at each of these schools that they can be using. And so make sure you're using your whole team as best you can to utilize them and everything that they have to offer as well. So another thing that I use while like managing the teams is a checklist, and this is broken down by things that need to happen. So at a school, like we have a lot of communication with the principal that has to happen, like pre-planning with the principal, making sure that they approve all the projects that we're doing, making sure that they know the schedule for the day. Then there's project lists, like, okay, so in the after-school program, we're going to have them help design the projects that we're going to be doing. And so I use checklists to kind of just like go through the process in my head. And then a step further than that, I make a week-by-week schedule in order to go over with my team. And so this is something that I can give to like each team that works in the school, and what they do based on that is then they can follow this plan and use the dates that are on it in order to help them plan their projects. So great, so like on April 6th, we're going to make sure that I'm going to train them on how to run a paint station. So that way when we're doing painting projects, you can be as careful as possible when we're carrying a ton of paint out. And they can make sure that they're like available on that date. So this kind of gives them, similar to what I was saying before with the calendar, a long-range work plan so that they know all of the things that are going to be due, and they can plan according to whatever meets their needs when they need to start doing things. I also, when planning, make sure I like to make sure you're thinking through everything. So now we've gone through the planning process, and you've started to pick out your projects, and now you need to start making tool lists. And so each project is broken up, and you're making sure that each project has everything they need, and it's like split up. So that way all of the people who are working on those projects know exactly what is needed. But then based on that, making lists for things that, you know, what kind of things am I going to have to buy, and what kind of things maybe I can have in-kinded from places who will donate to us, and what kind of things maybe do you already have. And then from there, being able to make a pricing sheet. Maybe you have someone who's donating like a monetary donation to you, and now you have this extra money that you can go and purchase things from. How are you going to spend that money? For mine, for example, we have on like the left-hand column on A, we have like our schools, and then all of the things that they're going to need: paint colors, paint supplies, gardening supplies, wood, and it's like all categorized by things that they're going to need by their projects. And then on the next slide, it's like a pricing sheet, because each school gets like a $100 budget, and so you can see like at the bottom line, like they've maximized their like amount of money that they can spend on things that they're going to need for their projects. So these are just some like other helpful prep plans set up in other notes. The week or two prior, I always like to leave the last 2 weeks open, make sure that everything is kind of like set and all your paperwork and things like that is done prior to 2 weeks before. That way, if anything needs to be adjusted, if things need to be bought or maybe like changed around, you have time to do that. The more your team knows, like I said, delegate. The more people who know the information, the better. I've run into problems where on a day of service, I'm the one with all of the information, and that can be not only stressful for yourself, but then also not very convenient for everybody who has to keep only coming to you. You can't be in like a million places at once. Some other things that I've run into: consider the weight of the materials if you're like buying stuff. I've had to pick up a ton of, literally like I think it was like 2 tons of soil before, and I had to rent a vehicle to pick it up because it was being like, obviously like 6 different schools were like using soil for different planter boxes and things like that, and making sure that you've thought through like all of the different details, considering the weight of the materials that you're buying, so you can have the appropriate be able to pick it up. And what I also like to do is do a walkthrough of each site, see where the projects are going to happen, talk to the people who are going to be running the projects, and so they know that if they can explain to me their project and how they're going to run it, I know that they're going to be confident, and that's all I need to trust them, is that they're going to be able to explain it to their children who are going to be doing the projects with them. So those are kind of just a couple helpful like paperwork items that I've used to kind of go through my thought process on things and helpful tips. If there's any other questions people have, or if you want the documents that I use, or if you want to ask me more questions about them, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Or, like I said, to send you the documents to use if something seems like it would be helpful for you.
Great. Thank you so much, Amanda. I know that I am a huge fan of lists, and I really appreciated you making sure that everyone know how important they are, and I definitely agree with you that it's very important to stay organized. So thank you so much. We are going to move on to Cathy, and before I switch it over to her, I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. So Cathy is a 6th grade teacher from Ontario, Canada, and she has been teaching for 23 years, all grades from 1 through 6, but she's currently teaching 6th grade. She has always had a passion for incorporating environmental and social justice topics in her classroom programs, and this is the 2nd year that she has done the Water Rockers program, which is a school and community water conservation program, and I'm really excited to hear all about it. So Cathy, you should be good to go.
All right. I'm Cathy, everyone. I am super excited to be here and to hear everyone else's stories as well. All right. So we started 2 years ago. We started our Water Rocker program, and I came up with a school goal with my students as well as a community goal. So our school goal, you can see right there for this year, is to get 90% of our staff and students to use reusable water bottles every day. And our community goal is to get 100 of our local downtown stores to join a program called the Blue W program. And all that means is that they celebrate customers who come into their stores with reusable bottles. There are lots of different ways that I stay organized. I have a specific corner in my classroom for all of my Water Rocker activities. I have regular Water Rocker routines. I actually have about 3 to 4 periods at least a week in my class dedicated to our Water Rockers program, and I try to tie it into all of our subjects whenever possible. I have my students do things like make morning announcements to the school. They write newspaper articles every single week for our local newspaper. They write something every week for our school online newsletter about the Water Rocker program as well to our parents. They visit classes in the school and do different activities with them about water conservation, and they do surveys about how many reusable water bottles people are using every day. So it's neat, and I find by having regular routines embedded right in my classroom program, no matter how busy it gets, the students always remind me. It becomes just so visible that the students are like, oh, we forgot to do that today, and it's great. So they're my backup memory for things like that. So it's great. Always, and you can hear a common theme from all the presentations tonight, you need to ask for help. And you can see in this slide here in front of you, we're on one of our downtown visits, and I've got parents here and student teachers as well as my whole class. So when we go downtown once a month, again, we have regular routines, and that's when we go in, and I have them go into the stores in pairs. The same 2 students go into the same store every month, and 1 adult goes in with them. And it's really neat. So over the year, they really build up a rapport. They learn how to shake hands and make eye contact, and they have a script every time they go in. So having those we really built up our strong community and parent connections. And I don't even live in that community. I live about half an hour away, and I've made these amazing connections. And I have so many people who email me from the community to say, oh, I want one of your students to go on my radio show next week. I think we need to do this. Oh, I think we need to do this. And I get emails all the time from people. And I think it's really important to A, that keeps me on my toes, but B, it's also really great to have that network so that, and I want to value all of those ideas and try to make them happen as best as I can. How to keep on task, because everyone is busy. I heard this from other presenters tonight too. You want to have clear expectations of everyone's role. The students in my class, they all have their water research that they have to accomplish every week, but then on top of that, I've assigned them to all of those things that I talked about before, writing newspaper articles and so on, making posters for the school, making announcements. And so what I do at the beginning of the year to help with the student buy-in is I pull them aside one by one to say, how I've specifically chosen them for this amazing job, and it's a super important job, and I need them to work hard at it and to keep it up the whole year. And the students love it. They love it. They feel important. They feel really, really valued. When we go downtown, I make sure that the adults have clear instructions too. I don't want them to talk. When they go into the stores, I want the students to do all of the talking. They've got a script in front of them, and so I give clear instructions to my parent volunteers. They're a support person. They stand behind the students, but it's the students who totally run the show. I want it to be student directed. How do I recognize the students and the volunteers? We're spoiled in that my school is the only school in our community of about 4,000 people, and so we get in the local newspaper every single week. Usually there's several articles actually about our Water Rocker program every single week, and the students write articles as well as their professional reporters writing articles. We also cut out those articles and we put them on a bulletin board in the front hall of the school. I kind of dedicate a space for that, so when the kids walk by, they just feel extra important. When we have assemblies, my students often wear their Water Rocker t-shirts to it, and I make sure that they get recognized for organizing different things in the school. I think it's super important to thank the parents and the community volunteers too, and we have water bottles that we've designed that we give to them as thank you gifts. We also make thank you cards, and we have every single student sign them and hand deliver them at the end of the year to say thank you for making this such a success. Our program has spread this year to another school, and so now you can see we're 120 students, which is super exciting, and we're just in the middle actually of setting up, of finishing writing a curriculum document, a Water Rockers curriculum document, and so we'll be sharing that soon with other schools.
Great. Thank you so much, Cathy. I know it's always important for me to hear from a teacher's perspective, and I hope that the rest of the attendees also felt that was important, and you provided some really great feedback. So we really appreciate being here and being on. And if you have any questions, as Cathy said, her contact information is here on the screen. And our next and final presenter is Sharon Lee. And I'm going to introduce her before I pass it on over. So Sharon is a senior in high school from Texas, and she has a passion for service learning and community service, just like many of us here tonight. And 1 month before her 10th birthday, which was in 2008, Sharon was watching TV when she saw the aftermath of the horrible earthquake in Sichuan, China. 2 days later, Sharon and her siblings went door to door asking for donations, and 2 months later, they had raised $6,000. Her passion for helping others was ignited, and she co-founded We Care Act, a nonprofit organization that has raised over $170,000 in funds and in-kind donations for victims of natural disasters across the globe. Sharon also serves on YSA's Global Youth Council, so it's been really great getting to know Sharon. And Sharon, as long as you unmute yourself, you should be good to go.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. So like mentioned, I'm Sharon, and I'm the current president of We Care Act, which is a nonprofit that my siblings and I founded. So our mission is to give aid to victims of disaster and raise awareness for the power of youth in our world's problems. So like mentioned, it just started off as like this backyard fundraiser for victims of Sichuan, for the Sichuan earthquake. And since then, we've involved over 30,000 young people in 17 countries, and we've been able to help over 32,000 victims of 10 natural disasters. It's just been a phenomenal experience, and when people talk about how you gain just as much from community service as you give, it's really true. And even though we initially started to help natural disaster victims, we've expanded a lot, and we're currently doing a project that refurbishes and recycles used computers. Okay, so I'm just going to give you basically a step-by-step process for ways to manage your Global Youth Service Day project, or really any project. And this is typically the process that I use as well. So step one would definitely be brainstorming. It's really important to understand that this process is a collaborative effort. Typically, a lot of people feel like it's one person alone is dictating everything, but really you need to find a trustworthy team that you know you can count on. And I think that's really important. And it's on top of that, it's really, really important to be flexible and open-minded to other ideas. Because even though you may think that you have the best idea, it's very possible that someone else has an idea that's also really, really great. And it's a good idea to try to incorporate this into your own ideas. In brainstorming, you should always encourage people to speak up. You never want to intimidate them or make them afraid to speak. So whenever they give ideas, just say thank you, like thank them for being there, saying things, just contributing at all. And very important to write everything down. Even if it seems insignificant, it's really, really important that you have a record of some sort. So if later you're thinking, wow, now that I think of it, that woman really mentioned something that's really interesting, that you can pull it up and be like, oh, this is what she said. And lastly, in brainstorming, you should definitely be realistic and look for long-term impact. Because short-term impact projects are also really great. They're very, very beneficial, but in the long run, you want to make a big, big effort. So the next step would be getting the word out. What I normally do, and what I did since I started, is I created flyers, and that's basically, it includes information about whatever you're doing, why you're doing it, and what you hope to get done. And also it's good to include a little bit about you so that they know that you're trustworthy, that you actually want to do good, and you're not just like quote unquote some kid, which is sometimes what older people can think. And another way is to create newsletters. This is basically a flyer, but in more detail. And other ways are posting on social media, emailing past volunteers, even new volunteers, people just in your neighborhood as well. It's really important, like I said, keep record of everything. You should always know who you've contacted, because you never want to contact someone too many times about the same thing, because it can kind of dissuade them from actually doing something. And also keep a copy of everything you create, flyers, newsletters, posts, emails, etc., and mark the date of when you did it. Next, talking to potential volunteers. You should always talk to people who contact you with their interest, and it's really, really important to get back to them. So if someone emails you or someone even mentions it to you, and when you're passing by them, you definitely want to do a follow-up so they can get more information. It's also, I'm very, very big on making sure that they know they can make a difference, because for a lot of young people, they don't really know that they have this capability, that they have a lot of power. And it's really important just to get that message across that they have the capability to do that. Then you definitely want to explain what their role would be, so they're not caught off guard, or they don't think they're going to do any less or any more than what they plan on doing. And also, you want to send out reminders as the day of the project approaches. So once you determine that, you want to keep people updated, make sure that they know when it's coming up so they don't forget, and you have basically just everything on track. And also, all the while, you definitely want to be inviting additional people to attend, even as the day of the project is getting closer. You still want to invite more people, because in the long run, more people usually means a greater impact. The big day. Definitely you want to take pictures for the record. And this is just so that you can not only post it on other places, you can also show people what you've done, and then show those people who are there or their parents that you guys were getting something done, that there was a positive impact. You also want some sort of schedule, whether it be rough or very specific. You want to know where people are going to be and at what time, because you don't want there to be just mass chaos. Also, especially for younger people, snacks and games are pretty important, especially during break times. If they're getting a little tired, you want to excite them again, get them excited, and snacks and games, pretty good thing to have. Also, again, you want to take record of everything everything you did, everything you're doing, and then when the project's over, you want to be able to say what you got done so that you can later tell people about it. And do not be stressed out. This is probably one of the biggest things. You really want to be able to just enjoy yourself and not get really too bogged down about the details, because before, when you're planning it, you want to know what you're doing, but when you're there, you should enjoy yourself, and you should hopefully get other people to enjoy it too. And also, you should definitely keep everyone updated afterwards. You should mention all the positives, what people got done. You should make sure everyone, all the volunteers know they're appreciated, and you should share the stats of what you got done. Rewarding volunteers. You definitely want to email each person individually and thank them for their time. Even if it's a big scale project, you want to make sure every single person knows that they contributed something valuable. You also want to give them their earned volunteer hours, because that's really important for some people. And also giving even shout outs on social media, writing handwritten cards, delivering it to them. And then there are more long-term things like providing information on future volunteer opportunities or grants or awards, because a lot of people who do a lot of service, they should definitely be awarded with these things or grants where they can take out on their own projects. Also, writing letters of recommendation, giving those offers is something that some wouldn't really do, but I think this is a good way for people to know that you really, really appreciate their help. And also, on a side note, I just wanted to mention that working with young people in middle schools, junior highs, after-school centers, those are really, really good ways to get young people involved in service and kind of foster a love for service at a young age. Because those people, they don't really know what they can do sometimes, and letting them know that they have this ability is very, very important. And my contact information is sharonlee@wecareact.org, and my We Care Act's website is www.wecareact.com. And if you have any questions, please email me, and thank you so much for letting me speak with you today.
Thank you so much, Sharon. I'm going to go ahead and mute you now, but thank you so much. I think it's something that I've taken away from everyone tonight is just make sure that you say thank you to everyone that's helping you with your project. So that's one thing that I took away from all of these presenters, and hopefully all of you took away something much, much more than that. So thank you to all of our presenters this evening. I know that there are so many pieces to putting together a GYSD project, and it's really important to make sure that you're staying organized and making your life a little bit easier during the project. So all of the tips and tricks that we've learned tonight hopefully will help you with your GYSD project or any project in general, especially as GYSD is quickly approaching. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about sort of some next steps for your own GYSD story. If you've been following the webinar series, you now know how to investigate, how to manage, and how to organize. And the story of your GYSD project, it starts today, and it will continue in March and in April and much further beyond. So our next couple webinars are March 11th and April 8th, both at 8 p.m. Eastern, which will then lead up to Global Youth Service Day on April 17th through the 19th of this year. And we can't wait to hear your stories and learn your tips and tricks over the next few months and definitely beyond as well. I just wanted to highlight some of the YSA resources that we offer in case anyone needs some more tips and tricks. We have things on our website that would be helpful for all of you to check out, and you can check them out at our website, which is ysa.org, or feel free to email me, let me know if you have any questions, or feel free to contact any of the presenters. As you can see, they all had really important things to share with you, so definitely use them as a resource as well. And with that, I just want to say thank you all so much for joining us. We really enjoyed having you on and really enjoyed listening to our 4 presenters this evening. Feel free to browse our website, tweet at us, post on Facebook. We love reading about all of the GYSD projects that all of you are doing and all the success that you're having. So please continue the conversation on Twitter. Just follow the hashtag GYSD, as many of you have done tonight, so thank you for doing that. And thanks again to all of our 4 presenters. It was great having you on, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Thanks, everyone.